What's up, guys? In today's video, we are going to be going over the story of Darth Bane. I have recently read the Darth Bane Legends trilogy and really enjoyed it and thought, wow, this would be a cool story to share. So here we are today. The gameplay in the background is going to be Battlefront 2, if any of you guys were wondering. So let's begin the story at the very beginning. If you guys have no idea who Darth Bane is. Basically, Darth Bane was the founder of the Ruler 2, a legendary Sith Lord who sought to end Khan's Brotherhood of Darkness and one day destroy the Jedi. Alright, so. Bane was born in the year 1026 BBY during the new Sith Wars under the name Dessel in the Outer Rim on a mining world called Apatros. And during his birth, his mother actually died. This caused his father to hate him and call him Bane, which was, in turn, the bane of his existence. Once Bane turned 16, he was forced to work in the mines of Apatros. You see, in the Outer Rim, factions control what's happening, and Apatros was controlled by a mining company called Outer Rim Ore Works Company, or Oro. This company basically owned the residents of Apatros. They offered extremely low pay and forced their workers to live in very small company housing quarters. Oro gave out loans to workers who needed money for food, housing, or other essentials, but charged the workers extremely high interest rates so they would have to work even longer shifts in the mines to pay back their debt. Oro forbade workers from leaving the planet until their debt was paid in full. In the mines, Bane would have to fend for himself. He would get into fights with other miners, and most likely than not, he would win. One night when Bane was 18, his father came home as usual drunk, and he started to abuse Bane. On this particular night, Bane wasn't having any of it, so he challenged his father to a fight. Bane would inevitably lose the fight, but later that night, he dreamed about killing his father. He envisioned a hand squeezing his heart until it popped. The next day, his father never woke. Bane had used the Force without knowing it. Even though his father had died, he still had to live in a harsh life as a miner. He would go on with his life for another 5 years, passing the time by playing cards and gambling. One night he was feeling extra lucky while going up against a Republic officer. Bane had won and took all the officer's money. The officer got mad and took out vibroblades to kill Bane. Bane did what anyone would do and pulled out his own knife and killed the officer before he would die. This caused Bane to be a wanted man. The only thing he could do was leave. The only way he could get off the planet, though, was through a Nomodian male who owned a katana. Through his affiliates, the Nomodians smuggled Dez off-world. The only catch, Dez would have to join the Sith ranks. Bane didn't have much of a choice and agreed that being alive as a soldier was better than being arrested and eventually killed. Bane initially joined as a foot soldier, but would climb the ranks and join the Gloomwalkers. This was a highly elite squadron commanded by Lieutenant Ulabor. During his time between the years 1003 and 1002 BBY, they would be tested in the savage wars between Khan's Brotherhoods of Darkness and the Republic. He fought on Kashyyyk, Chadorsia, and Phosphira, where his skills alone saved the Gloomwalkers more times than they would count. Everybody knew that Bane was the only reason they were alive. Upon landing on Facito, the Gloomwalkers were tasked with eliminating a Republic outpost. Its elimination would allow the rest of the Sith army to launch a surprise attack on the Republic base camp. Lieutenant Ulabor believed the Gloomwalkers' mission would be easy, which relaxed the troopers as they waited for their orders. However, Dessel had a bad feeling about the battle to come, much like he had felt before the near disaster on Hiskar. Eventually, Ulabor returned with their orders. They were to hit the outpost in 1 hour. This was met by shock and outrage from the soldiers, one whom shouted out that this was a suicide mission. Dessel reasoned that the outpost's 3 repulsor craft equipped with heavy repeating flash cannons would mow them down from the sky if they tried to take the outpost during the day. Ulabor refused to listen to the Gloomwalkers' protests, and Dessel simply punched Ulabor in the jaw, knocking him out, and took over the command of the unit. Dessel ordered the communications officer to tell the Sith headquarters that their mission was complete so they could start moving the main force in position. giving the Gloomwalkers 2 hours to accomplish their objective. After knocking out Lieutenant Ulabor, Dezil addressed the Gloomwalkers, stating that anyone who followed him from there on could face a court-martial, and if any of them felt they could not follow him after what he did, he would surrender the command to a fellow soldier. However, the Gloomwalkers voted to stay under his command. Under the cover of night, the Gloomwalkers moved silently through the jungle until they had the outpost surrounded. Splitting into 3 squads, one on each side of the outpost, once they were in position, they activated their interference boxes, jamming all transmissions within the perimeter. However, they ran into an unexpected problem. Although the repulsor craft were grounded, each of them still contained a soldier operating the flash cannons. Dezil proposed that Lucia, one of the unit's best shots, snipe the 3 gunners in succession, but the idea was rejected as impossible. Frustrating and acting on instinct, Dezil shot 2 of the gunners, but was blinded by a flash canister. Incredibly, Dezil was still able to see even after being blinded, and quickly killed all the soldiers manning the gunship. 3 hours later, the outpost had been taken, and with only 9 Gloomwalker casualties, Dezil left the command of the unit to another soldier, and he and the rest of the Gloomwalkers returned to the camp to find Ulabor, by now fully conscious, accompanied by a dozen Sith enforcers. Bane surrendered himself and was taken before a Sith Lord. Dezil expected to be executed for insubordination and said the Lord senses Dezil's force potential and enrolls him in the Sith Academy on Korriban. Upon his arrival, Dezil adopts the name Bane, a name his father used to often disgrade him as. Bane begins to learn the ancient ways of the Sith, studying under masters such as Cordis, Chasm, as well as others like Borthus, Ezoran, Oratha, Shinyag. He also studies the temple's archives and quickly begins to surpass the other students, despite his late entry into the academy. After Bane killed a student named Foarg in the dueling ring, his prestige at the academy raises. However, he begins to doubt himself, and his connection to the Force falters. In a desperate bid to maintain his reputation, Bane challenges Sirak, the foremost student at the academy. In the ensuing duel, Bane is beaten within an inch of his life. After his humiliation, Lord Cordis digresses that Bane is to no farther training from other masters. During this time, Githany, a Jedi traitor, arrives at the academy shortly after Khan's near victory over the Army of Light on Ruusan. Seeing Bane as someone she could use to remove Sirak, her only rival at the academy, she begins to secretly tutor him in the ways of the Force. At the same time, Bane approaches Chasm for secret instruction in the lightsaber combat. Neither of Bane's illicit teachers is aware of another, and Bane hopes to keep the secret for as long as possible. Slowly as Bane begins to regain much of his lost power and confidence, he once again visits the temple archives and resumes his study over there. As his training progresses, he starts to believe that the Brotherhood of Darkness and the Sith as a whole have turned their backs on the ancient ways. Despite his new training, Bane realizes that the true potential of the dark side was beyond not only himself, but every other of the Sith Lord. When Bane defeats Sirak in another challenge, he once again enjoys the favor of the Masters, but departs angry when Cordis ordered him to stop visiting the archives. Bane travels to the Valley of the Dark Lords, hoping to find some remnant of the Sith who passed beyond. Bane returns having found nothing and fakes acceptance of the Sith in their current teaching. Secretly, however, he now believes there is only one place he can go to learn what he needed. Everybody at the academy was getting ready to go back to Ruusan when Githany lures Bane into an ambush with Sirak at the academy library. At first, Bane believes she has betrayed him, but he quickly realizes the true reason when Githany tosses him his lightsaber to defend himself. Bane and Githany together kill Loke and Yerava, 2 other Sirak's followers. Bane then kills Sirak, who pleads for his life before Bane brutally decapitates him. Instead of leaving for Ruusan with the other Sith Lords, Bane steals Cordis' starship, the Valsian and heads for a location he had read about in the Sith archives. He takes the ship to a world called Lehon, remembered in history as the Unknown World, and home to the now existent Rakata. Through his research in the archives, Bane believes that the Rakata were the first dark side users present in the galaxy. Upon his arrival at the Temple of the Ancients, Bane finds Darth Revan's holocron. Taking all he learned from Revan, Bane crafts the Rule of Two to ensure that only the strongest of the Sith Order continues to exist. After he defeats Gizem, who was sent by Khan to kill Bane after Githany told him of a forced premonition of Bane coming to Ruusan to destroy the Brotherhood of Darkness. After Bane kills Gizem in a lightsaber duel, he leaves for Ruusan, but not before sending Lord Khan a message in which he purposely appears weak and regretful about killing Chasm. He also sends the instructions for an ancient Sith battle technique, the Thought Bomb, as a peace offering. In anticipation of his arrival and fearing that Bane may actually destroy the Brotherhood, Khan sends Githany to kill Bane. After locating him on Ambria, she kisses him with poisoned lips after herself taking the antidote. Bane detects the poison straight away and is thrilled that Githany used such cunning and treachery as befitted a true Sith Lord, rather than traditional methods like dueling. Confident that the methods from Darth Revan's holocron will allow him to counteract the poison, Bane kisses Githany 3 times. Eventually, however, he begins to feel the effects of Synapse on his body and realizes that she used 2 poison against him synergistically, one to disguise the presence of the other. Bane then tracks down a local healer named Khalib, who cared neither for the Jedi or Sith. After Bane threatens to kill his daughter, Khalib cures Bane. Bane decides to spare their lives, figuring he might still use them, and that killing without reason or gain was one of the petty pleasures that was ruining the Sith Order. Heading for the Sith camp on Ruusan, Darth Bane finds a Jedi fleet in the system and Sith ships blocking their reinforcements to the Jedi below. On landing, Bane joins a meeting of the Sith Lords during which Khan describes his battle plan to the Brotherhood. The Sith Lords, especially Githany, are surprised to see Bane still alive. Bane uses the opportunity to lecture Khan for thinking like a dirty general and not a Sith Lord. Bane convinces the assembled Sith Lords to help him create a massive force storm with another of Darth Revan's rituals to destroy the forest which the Jedi forces are located. Khan, however, interrupts the ritual prematurely to engage the surviving Jedi hand-to-hand. Returning to his Sith camp empty-handed, Bane meets Cortus, who recognizes Bane's powers and asks to join Bane. Bane then force chokes him while telling Cortus that he intends not to take over the Brotherhood, but to end it forever. Bane enacts the next phase of his plan to destroy the Brotherhood by contacting the Sith Fleet Admiral and ordering him to break off the blockade. This move allows the Jedi to get through the blockade and gain the upper hand in the battle. Lord Khan, who has slowly drifted into insanity during his time on Ruusan, now believes the Thought Bomb to be the only chance for victory. The Sith gather deep into a network of caves where they prepare the Thought Bomb. Lord Kopex, however, sees Khan's madness and abandons the Brotherhood, only to be killed by Master Farfalla. Khan then detonates the Thought Bomb, killing himself and all the Sith and Jedi in the caves. Bane, now the last Sith on Ruusan, finds a Force-sensitive girl named Rain. Seeing her potential strength, Bane considers making Rain the first apprentice in his order of the Sith Lords. Her real name, Xana, had been taken to the planet by the Jedi several months earlier, but had been separated from them, and spent her time on Ruusan merely trying to survive. She had befriended a bouncer named Lao, who helped protect her. However, 2 Jedi had mistakenly killed her friend, causing her to lash out in anger and killed them. Upon finding her, Bane sensed her force potential, as well as the anger inside her. In addition, Xana did not back down from Bane, and proclaimed herself to be a killer. Impressed, Bane informed the girl that she would become his apprentice. Just for reference, if anyone does want to read the Darth Bane Legends trilogy, this is around the first end of the book, and now that I'm saying this, why would you want to read it after I just told you everything that happens in the book? I don't know. But, back to the story. The only survivor of the Thought Bomb was a Force-sensitive adolescent. His name's Darvid. He's curious to how he survived the Thought Bomb. He enters the cavern where the Thought Bomb was activated and finds a strange orb floating in midair. After touching it, he becomes exposed to the thoughts of all of those who were killed by the thought bomb and is overwhelmed by them. During this time, Darth Bane and his new apprentice Xana are still on Ruusan after the destruction of the Brotherhood of Darkness during the 7th Battle of Ruusan. Bane begins Xana's instruction by making her relive her memories of her friend Law's death, so that she can learn how to channel her anger at will. They head toward the former Sith encampment, where Bane kills a group of mercenaries who were looting the camp, but allows two to escape to spread rumors of the Sith's continued existence. In Cordis' tent, Xana and Bane find an unexpected treasure, a Sith manuscript revealing the location of the Tomb of Freedom Nad, a legendary Sith Lord from some 3,000 years earlier. Bane then leads Xana into a cave where the thought bomb was detonated to show her what Khan's beliefs led to. Xana is horrified by the feelings emanating from the orb, while Bane indoctrinates her with the rule of two. Two there should be, no more, no less. One to embody the power, the other to crave. In the cave, they encounter Darvit, who is revealed to be Xana's cousin. Darvit attacks Bane, believing her to be Bane's captive. Knowing that her new master would kill Darvit in an instant, Xana instead stops Darvit by destroying his right hand with the Force, telling Bane that the boy's death would serve no purpose. After leaving the cave, Bane informs Xana that he will meet her on Onderon in 10 days, and that she will have to find her own way. This would be Xana's first test. Bane then boards the Valsen and left Ruusan, headed for Nad's tomb on Duxon, Onderon's moon. Meanwhile, Johann Othorn, former Padawan of General Hoth, hears the two surviving mercenaries' story of being attacked by a Sith Lord. Johann attempts to convince Jedi Master Valentine that a Sith has survived, but Farfalla quickly dismisses the mercenaries' story. He then tells Johann that he will take Johann as his apprentice, and they have been ordered to return to Coruscant and meet with the Supreme Chancellor. Now alone, Xana manages to locate a Galactic Republic shuttle crewed by a soldier, a farmer, and his two sons. She accepts a meal and tells them, when questioned, that she needs to get to Onderon, where she has family. When the shuttle prepares to rejoin the Republic fleet, Xana makes her move, attempting to hold the crew hostage in exchange for passage to Onderon. One of the farmer's sons catches her stealing a blaster, and in the ensuing struggle, Xana kills him by shooting him with it. She then kills the farmer as well and orders the soldiers to set an autopilot course for Alderaan. She then kills the woman when she didn't comply along with the other boy. In the aftermath of the thought bomb, Bane begins to see hallucinations of Khan and Cordis, and he flies to Duxon. The vision of Cordis gods him, causing Bane to lash out with the Force and seriously damage the Valsen. Despite the damage, Bane is able to crash land on Duxon and enters the Tomb of Freedom Nad. As Bane attempts to retrieve a holocron from the burial chamber, he is attacked by Orbalisks, a parasitic creature native to Duxon. Two of the creatures attach themselves to his body before he could escape, and Bane quickly realizes that he cannot remove them. Nad's holocron described his own experiences with the Orbalisks. They feed on the dark side, release enzymes that increase physical strength and power to draw on the dark side, grant incredible regenerative powers, and their shells offer protection against any weapon, including lightsabers. The holocron also warns they can cause constant pain, multiply and spread over the entire body. And if one died, they would release a lethal poison that would kill him within days. Using his increased power to drive the phantoms of Khan and Cordis from his mind permanently, Bane mentally dominates a Drexel, a flying reptile, and uses the Force to encase it in himself in a cocoon of darkside energy and fly the few hundred kilometers through open space to Alderaan. Xana lands her stolen shuttle on Alderaan and is confronted by a group of threatening Alderaan beast riders. Bane arrives at that moment, killing the riders and returning his apprentice to her shuttle. On Coruscant, the Galactic Senate passes a resolution disbanding the Jedi military forces. Master Farfalla assigns Johann to the Chancellor's personal guard and promotes to a full Jedi Knight. This reformation would be later known as the Ruusan Reformation. 10 years later, Xana has grown into a beautiful young woman, training in the rare arts of Sith sorcery. She had to learn much of her dangerous power by herself because, while Bane provided her with some spells and techniques from Nad's holocron, his own skills in that area were limited. Bane sends her on a mission to goad a separatist movement on the world of Sereno. Into acting against the government, Zana seduces the Separatist second-in-command, an affluent Twi'lek named Kaladin, and feeds him information about former Chancellor Valorum's up-and-coming visit to Sereno. The group decides to kidnap him. Xana returns to her and Bane's home on Ambria. In her absence, Bane has attempted to create his own holocron and failed, destroying the camp in his anger. Concerned for her master's future and slightly conflicted over her physical attraction to Kel, Xana questions whether the Orbalists are helping Bane or harming him now. She realizes from Bane's reaction to her question that Bane also wonders the same thing and hopes that he will eventually find a way to rid himself of the Orbalists. Back on Sereno, the Separatists stage their kidnapping. Johan, however, still acting as Valorum's guard, manages to prevent the kidnapping and kill most of the Separatists, including Kel. Zana is then taken hostage by Sindria and Puck when she returns to the planet. She is then taken to the Separatist financial backer, a middle-aged man named Henton, who has been trained in the dark side and asked to become Xana's apprentice. After Xana defeats Sindria and Pack, Henton shows her his library of rare Sith artifacts and tells her most of his first master's stronghold on the planet of Tython, where the Jedi and Sith first came to power. Xana takes Henton and his 8 Umbarian shadow assassins back to Ambria. The assassins attack Bane, who killed them, and Henton before turning on Xana. She manages to hold his attacks off long enough to tell him that Henton knew where to find information about how to make a working holocron. This pegs Bane's curiosity, and he wonders if perhaps the Orbalists were part of his inability to create a holocron. He resolves to rid himself of the Orbalists and head to Tython to find Henton's master's base. He also assigns Xana to enter the Jedi Temple library to find information about how to remove the Orbalisk from the massive data archives. Xana succeeds in her mission by disguising herself as a missing Jedi and uses her Sith sorcery to mask her forced presence. As a favor for Johan saving his life, Valorum asks the Senate to commission a memorial to the Jedi forces who died on Ruusan. Darvit, living a reclusive existence as a healer on Ruusan, is angered by this and sabotages the construction effort until Johan tracks him down. Upon questioning Darvit, Johan learns that his hand was destroyed by his cousin Xana, and that she had been accompanied by Bane. Taking Darvit with him back to Coruscant, Johan leaves him in the library while he tries to secure an audience with the Jedi Council. Xana finds the information she needs in the library, though a momentary lapse of concentration allows Darvit to sense her true identity. When she finds out that he has told the Jedi about her and Bane, Xana takes him with her to Tython to warn Bane about the escape. When Johan and Farfalla discover that Darvit is missing from the library, they trace the records of the terminals Xana had been using, revealing the hyperspace route to Tython. Farfalla now believes that the Sith survived and begins assembling a Jedi task force to destroy the Sith once and for all. While on Tython, Bane learns to successfully create a holocron from Henton's master, but is interrupted when Xana and Darvit arrive. She warns Bane that the Jedi are on their way, but before they can leave, the Jedi ships enters the atmosphere. With no choice but to stand a fight, Xana shuts Darvit in a small closet, and she and Bane face their opponents. During the ensuing lightsaber duel, Johan happened to strike a part of Bane's body not covered by any of the Orbalists. The Jedi are all killed, but Bane is severely injured when his own Force lightning is turned against him. Several of the Orbalists were also killed by the lightning attack. Realizing she needs Bane's teaching, Xana takes Bane and Darvit to Ambria in search of the hero Caleb, who had saved Bane's life previously. On Ambria, Caleb refuses to help, having sent his daughter away years prior to deprive Bane of leverage against him should he return. Xana threatens him with physical pain and sorcery and his death. But to avail, Darvit tries to dissuade Xana from the path of Sith, telling her that Caleb has agreed to help Bane on the condition that Xana sabotage their ship and send a message directly to the Jedi Council telling them of Bane's location. Xana finally agrees, and Caleb removes the Orbalisk and heals Bane's injuries. When Bane was strong enough to understand, Xana tells him of the bargain she made to save his life. Bane orders Xana to kill him rather than become prisoner of the Jedi. Xana refuses, and a still weak Bane collapses back onto his bedding. Realizing Bane hasn't become mentally ridden, she rises from his side and activates her lightsaber. A Jedi strike team lands on Ambria and discovers a dismembered body at Caleb's camp. As they approach Caleb's shack, a one-handed man swinging Farfello's lightsaber emerges and attacks them wildly. The Jedi quickly overpower and kill him. After finding the lightsaber of Farfello's companions inside the shelter, they conclude that the last Sith had been wounded in the battle on Tython, then driven himself insane by attempting to use the dark side to heal his injuries. They overlook the pit under the shelter where Xana hides herself and Bane with Sith sorcery. Several days later, Bane finally awakens. Xana informs him that she killed Caleb and broke Darvit's mind with her powers, and that Darvit was then killed by the Jedi when they arrived. Bane asks her why she saved him, and Xana reminded him that she still has much to teach her. Bane admits that he underestimated her and that he was proud of her. Xana then warns him, "One day I will surpass you, and that day I will kill you, Lord Bane, but today is not that day." Thus, that concludes the second book in the series, so now on to the third. The story picks up 10 years later, after the end of Darth Bane, Rule of Two. Since Darth Bane's recovery at the end of Rule of Two, he and Darth Xana have been living on the Outer Rim world of Jedi-Sith War, under the assumed identities of Sep and Ala Omek, a pair of wealthy merchant siblings. Bane's constant usage of the dark side has begun to take a noticeable toll on his body, along with the damage inflicted by his decade-long experience with the Orbulus and the natural aging process. He realizes that he is slow but surely growing weaker each day, a realization crystallized by a recoiling tremor in his left hand. Xana, however, has made no move to challenge him for the role of the Dark Lord of Sith, a fact that Bane finds extremely troubling, unsure of whether she is afraid of him, unsure of winning, loyal to him, or simply waiting for him to become more vulnerable physically before she attacks. He refuses to initiate their confrontation, believing that to do such would weaken the Sith again. If Xana won, the Sith would be in the hands of a Lord who did not fully follow Bane's teaching. And if Bane won, his body would fail him before he could find and train another apprentice. He decides that he must rejuvenate or replace his body, and theorizes that the secret to doing so is in a long-lost teaching of the Sith Lord named Darth Indetta. On the mining world of Dome, Jedi Knight Med Tandar meets with a rebellious group of miners to both bring their grievances to the ruling family and to confiscate some possible Sith artifacts they have unearthed. Tindar tells the miners that the king is unlikely to listen to them, as an ill-planned attempt at capturing the crown several months prior led to the man's accidental death. As he agrees with the miners, a disturbance in the force manifests itself, and an Ektorchi assassin storms the meeting area, killing the rebels. Tindar attempts to fight back, but finds his ability to touch the force tainted by the dark side, making him almost physically ill. Gathering his concentration, he manages to disarm the assassin, but anticipating the move, she set her blaster to overload, and Tindar is killed in the explosion. Princess Sira of Doan, widow of Crown Prince Garen, is awakened from her sleep by a nightmare of the healer Caleb confronting the poisoned Bane on Ambria, and of her own near death at Bane's hands. Sira is Caleb's daughter, who was married into the Doan royal family. Her personal bodyguard and close friend Lucia, who once served with Dez and the Gloomwalkers, brings word that the king wishes to speak with her, and they head to the royal chambers. The king raises the possibility that the assassin who killed the rebel miners followed the Jedi there, and that since he had asked the Galactic Senate to send a Jedi mediator, they might assume that he hired the assassin to do so, not intending the Jedi's death. He says the assassin was not acting out of his orders, which Sarah believes. And in turn, he believes Sarah's view that any of the nobility might have hired the assassin. Not realizing that a Jedi would also become involved, she offers to go to Coruscant and present this view to the Jedi, and the king gives her leave to go. Once they are alone, Lucia confesses to Sarah that she hired the assassin, and though she is thanked by Sarah, Lucia finds herself disturbed at the scope of Sarah's anger and hatred towards the miner of their husband's death. Back on Sutric 4, Bane meets a man named Argel 10. He knows Bane only as a collector of Sith artifacts, and finds them for him and other clients. After haggling, Bane receives a single scroll that points to Darth Indettu's living on the deep core world of Parkith, and of the temple being built there to glorify him. Knowing that Xana would be suspicious if she knew Bane was leaving, he sends her to Dune, ostensibly to gather the Sith artifact that led to the Jedi's death. Xana does so, though she doubts Bane's reasons for sending her, and comes to think that perhaps Bane has mistaken her caution in challenging him before she has found a suitable apprentice for hesitation to think that she can defeat him. She decides that time has come, and that upon returning to the Dome she will challenge Bane for the mantle of Dark Lord of the Sith. Sira and Lucia, meanwhile, make their way to Coruscant and are granted an audience with the Ithorian Jedi Master Oba, a member of the Jedi Council of First Knowledge. Sira uses her knowledge of the Jedi's tenets and behaviors to subtly manipulate Oba into accepting her side of the events surrounding Tendar's death, and Oba then surprises Sira by revealing that a former pupil of his, a dark Jedi named Set Hearth, may have been involved in the circumstances of the Jedi artifacts. Oba also shows Sira the memorial plinth that was erected after the deaths of Master Valentified Farfalla and the other Jedi who were sent to Tython. During the Jedi Master's retelling of the story, Sira realizes that the man who came at the initial Jedi response team on Ambria was not Bane. And after leaving the temple, she tells Lucia to take a message to the assassin who killed the rebels and the Jedi Master. As Oba suspected, Dark Jedi Set Hearth is unknown, knowing that the real reason Tendar would have journeyed there is because Oba sent him to claim Sith artifacts. He bribes Quano, a Rodian bartender, to find out who has him, but is forced to kill the Rodian's bodyguards when they spring a double cross attempt on him. He then follows the Rodian to a new meeting of the rebel miners, who is being led by a ferocious individual named Drado. Hearth quickly realizes that Drado is being influenced by the dark side energies in the artifact, and he dashes in, using his blaster and lightsaber to make quick work of most of the miners. He then force chokes Drado to his death before taking the artifacts. Xana, in the meantime, has made her way on to Dune, and following Hearth's trail leads her to Quano. The Rodian bartender, begging sympathy for him, Xana gets him to lead her to his contact at the spaceport, who tells Hearth Had came from Nalhunta in a ship. When Xana finds out that the contact also knows that she came from Sutric Force, she kills him in Quano, then dumps their bodies onto a ship in Doan's sun as she leaves orbit. In the deep core, Bane arrives at Parkith. Having had to make hundreds of small hyperspace jumps that lengthen his tramp significantly to avoid the dangers of that area of the space, he lands at a spaceport and passes himself off as a visitor from another city on the planet, and quickly learns the location of Endedu's temple. Traveling there, Bane sets his ship, the Triumphant, down on the landing pad atop of the temple, attracting the attention of almost 24 of Endedu's cultists, who he easily dispatches with the Force and his lightsaber. Heading into the temple, Bane effortlessly kills the few who dare to oppose him. Soon finding Endedu's holocron and leaving Parkith at the same time, Lucia journeys to a moon space station called Paradise to enlist the service of the Iktochi assassin who is known as a huntress. She dislikes acting as she is, but realizes that something in Sarah's past must deeply hurt her. Meeting the huntress, Lucia gives her the coordinates of Khalif's camp on Embria, offering triple the assassin's normal rate. The huntress agrees, and Lucia returns to Down. Xana has made her way to Nalhutta in search of Hearth, and soon finds his home, lavishly decorated in a style that obviously means he enjoys his good life. He also, however, has a stash of Sith artifacts hidden away, and Xana decides that despite his flaws, it might be advantageous to see if he would be a fitting apprentice. Arthur returns home and engages Xana in a suggestive confrontation, then attacks without warning, causing her to think that he might be a worthy student. They battle and Xana soon realizes that Hearth is tiring. Then she unleashes one of her spells on him, casting his mind down into a pit of hopelessness and despair, knowing that if he possesses the will to fight out of the trance, he will have shown that he is strong enough to be her apprentice. The huntress makes her way to Ambria, where she finds Sarah there. Sarah flatly says that she wants the assassin to track down and capture Bane, and the huntress uses the Force abilities to sense the memories of the camp. Getting images of Khalib and Xana, Sarah offers the huntress 10 times her normal fee and a force of mercenaries, and the huntress accepts. Sarah then gives the huntress a drug called Synflax, which will incapacitate Bane. The huntress begins to make her plans. Heading back to Sutric 4 from Barkith, Bane learns of the ritual essence transfer, which will allow a powerful enough Sith to transfer the essence to a new body, though their own body will be destroyed in the process. Additionally, if their would-be host is strong-willed enough, the transfer will fail, and the Sith attempting the transfer will suffer an eternity of torment as a disembodied conscience. Bane grows angry at the arrogance of Endedu's holographic gatekeeper and forces his own mind into the holocron, taking the ritual into his mind by force. On Nal Hutta, Hearth awakens to find Xana sitting in his bedroom, and she tells him she needs an apprentice. Hearth is reluctant at first, knowing that he chaved under the master/apprentice system of the Jedi Order, but finally decides to commit to her out of lust for power. Xana realizes that Hearth is flawed, but reasons that she can teach him to believe in the ways of the Sith and make him into a worthy apprentice. Deciding that if he fails to become one, she is young enough that she can find another apprentice and start again. On Sutric 4, at the Omek house, the Huntress prepares to spring a trap on Bane. While shutting down the automated security system, she finds Bane's library of Sith artifacts and takes his personal holocron. When Bane returns, still exhausted from his mental battle with the Undetu's gatekeeper, he is preoccupied about thinking who his next victim shall be for the essence transfer. He only realizes he is walking into a trap an instant before the 2 sonic detonators go off on either side of him, staggering him. He uses the Force to shield himself, but the Hunter's power interferes with his mind, and he is hit by a stun rifle. Bane quickly recovers and kills 3 of his attackers with Force lightning, but is incapacitated by flash grenades and webbing guns which connect his body to the floor. Bane finally manages to overpower the Huntress's ability and taps into the Force, shredding his restraints and avoiding the diving stabs of the Huntress, only getting cut on the arm. Bane kills several more of his attackers. Then he flips up to the balcony to face the Huntress. He knocks her off and she lands safely, even managing to avoid a bolt of Force lightning. Bane follows her down, but as he lands, the Synflex takes into effect and he is immobilized. The Huntress takes Bane's lightsaber and duffel bag, then directs the cleanup effort that takes Bane and the bodies of the dead mercenaries back to Done. Zero has had Bane taken to the stone prison, a complex built several kilometers underneath the foundations of the Dome Castle. She goes to see Bane and is confronted by Lucia, who is worried about the effects this is having on her friend. The Huntress says she wants to see Bane as well, and when Lucia voices the same wish, all 3 women head into Bane's cell. Sierra administrates a powerful stimulant to Bane as he rises his head. Lucia gasps in shock as she recognizes her former commander. Sierra begins torturing Bane with various drugs, demanding to know why Bane killed Khalib, but Bane answers that he did not. That he considered Khalib to be a valuable tool, and he might have been needed again in the future. He lectures Sarah at his attempts to hurt him, twisting her actions into affirmation of the teachings of the dark side, and Sarah is horrified by his words. Sarah and the Huntress leave. Lucia uses the stimulant drug to give Bane a chance to escape, more out of concern for what torturing Bane will do to Sarah than of wanting Bane to go free. She leaves the cell and orders the guards to sound the alarm if anything goes wrong, then heads off to find Sarah. At the same time, Xana and Hearth arrive at the stone prism and land undetected. Xana goes off in search of Bane while ordering Hearth to stand guard at their ship. A bored Hearth begins to run through his options, weighing his desire for greater powers against the abandoning of his new apprenticeship, and living in fear with the fact Xana or Bane finding him one day. He searches with the Force and easily locates Xana and Bane, then also finds Endetu's holocron. The temptation of eternal life proves too much, and he leaves to search for it. In his cell, the stimulant finally overpowers the Synflex, and Bane manages to free himself from his bonds. He breaks out of his cell and kills the guards outside, but the guards on the next level of the room triggers the alarm. He uses the Force to dispatch the soldiers, then senses Xana searching for him. He begins trying to track down Sarah and escape, while at the same time avoiding Xana, as he still has some of the Synflex in his system and doesn't have a lightsaber. A distraught Sarah turns to find the Huntress shadowing her, and the Iktochi tells her that Lucia has freed Bane. Sarah refuses to believe her, but then the alarm sounds and she heads for the prison control center, intending to activate detonation charges that will collapse the entire prison on itself. While searching for Sarah, Lucia hears the alarms go off, and she runs into the Huntress, who tells her that she informed Sarah of Lucia's betrayal. She tells Lucia which way Sarah went, and Lucia realizes that Sarah is going to collapse the prison. The Huntress, who still has Bane lightsaber and holocron, decides that she wants the power of the Sith and heads towards the landing pad to wait. Xana is tracking Bane through the prison, though she soon realizes that Bane is leaving traces of his power at certain points to confuse her. She focuses on Bane and begins tailing him again. Eager to battle him, Hearth finds the office where Sarah earlier hid and Dudu's holocron in the safe and takes it, then heads to the main landing pads to leave. After entering the code incorrectly several times in her agitation, Sarah manages to get inside the control room and enters the self-destruct code for the prison, hesitating to press the confirm button. At the landing pad, Hearth admires the Huntress's ship before she confronts him. He attacks her, but soon falls victim to her ability, finding it difficult to battle her without full access to the Force. Bane, tracking down Sarah, is stopped by Lucia, who asks Bane to let Sarah live in exchange for freeing him. Bane refuses and Lucia stands in his way, but Bane is no longer dead, and he prepares to kill Lucia before a wave of Force energy hits both he and Lucia. Bane manages to shield himself, but Lucia is killed. Xana confronts Bane, telling him in a voice filled with contempt that he has betrayed the rule of two. Bane argues that he only sought Ndetu's hologram because Xana had not challenged him, and if wants the mantle of Dark Lord of the Sith, she must take it from him while he is in his prime, not once he has been weakened by old age. Xana advances on him and realizes he hasn't found his lightsaber. Then she attacks. In the control room, Sarah cancels the self-destruct, then goes in search of Lucia. Soon finding her friend's broken form, she finally realizes that revenge was never what her father would have wanted. Then she hears a high-pitched hum and sees Bane and Xana fighting. Dragging Lucia's body back to the control room and putting it in the escape shuttle, she activates the detonation charges and leaves the shuttle. At the landing pads, the Huntress finds herself unable to corner Hearth, who realizes that he can't beat her with the interference to the connection of the Force. Hearth switches tactics and disables two of the 4 shuttles on the pads before stopping and offering to let the Huntress leave, as she would do the same for him. She reluctantly agrees and Hearth steals a shuttle and flies off, with the Huntress noting that he is the first person to escape her, but believing it to be a minor inconvenience compared to the power of the Sith. Fighting Bane, Xana finds herself uncomfortable with being the aggressor, and even without his lightsaber. Bane is able to use the Force and use his awesome powers to keep himself from being cornered or trapped by her. He finally manages to distract her long enough to trigger one of the detonation charges with the Force lightning, separating them within tons of rubble. Realizing she missed her opportunity, Xana retreats to her ship and leaves. Bane races to the landing pad and finds a Huntress there. She kneels before him, presents Bane with his lightsaber and holocron, and asks to be apprentice. Sweetening her offer with the knowledge of Sarah's location, Bane accepts and then leaves with her. Sarah lands on Ambria and bruises Lucia's body, then recounts the events that led here, beginning with the desire for revenge that Garen's death invoked in her, and she realized that the lust for vengeance had cost her everything. She finally decided that no matter what else happens, she will face it with the strength of her will her father had showed her, and that she will never again allow the dark side to influence her decision. In conversation with the Huntress, Bane learns of how she tracked him with her visions, and that she is having visions of Bane and Xana battling, though they shift between Bane and Xana winning her battle. He realizes that she could be a valuable addition to the Sith, as while he can predict the future, she can be trained to actually see it. They land on Ambria at Caleb's old camp, and as Bane walks up to the tent, Sarah emerges and confronts Bane, asking if she saw Lucia's grave. When Bane discounts Lucia saving his life, Sarah says her death was pointless, and Bane retorts that Caleb's death was pointless, and that he would not have killed the man. He tells Sarah that if she has Caleb's power, he could use her, but Sarah says she will never help Bane. She attempts to warn the Huntress that following Bane will lead her to destruction, but the Huntress disregards the warning, saying that Bane will lead her to retrieving all the power she lusted. The Huntress asked and received Bane's permission to kill Sarah, doing so quickly when Sarah doesn't resist. In orbit around Doan, Xana is thinking over the events of the previous day, wondering if what Bane said about waiting for her to challenge him really reflects a weakness in her. Before deciding that it was only a philosophical ploy on Bane's part to get her to doubt herself, Going over their battle, she realizes that Bane had tricked her into fighting his way instead of her way. Resolves to not make the same mistake if they ever meet again. On Ambria, Bane initiates the Huntress as a Sith apprentice, and she takes the name Congus. Impressing Bane that she realizes her mind is her most important weapon, he questions her farther about the battle she sees between him and Xana, and realizes that it has to happen, or else the Sith will be weakened forever. He heads to Congus's shuttle and sends Xana a coded message telling her to come face to face with him at Khalif's camp. Xana receives the message and heads straight to Ambria, determined to end their confrontation. Landing on Ambria, Xana sees Congus in the background, but Congus declares that her loyalty is to the Sith and that she will not interfere in their battle. Xana declares that she has surpassed Bane. He tells her to prove it, and the battle restarts. Xana realizes in moments that, even with his orbitless armor, Bane never sparred with her at full speed, as it all she can do is keep him at bay. Bane, like otherwise, realizes that her defense is better than he knew, and settles back in anticipation for a long, grueling battle. Xana has decided to use some of her sorcery on Bane, but while she backs up and prepares a spell, she trips over Lashia's freshly dug grave, and Bane instantly advances on her. Kicking her in the side and breaking a rib, Xana puts some distance between them, then hits Bane with a spell that causes him to see a horrific creature staring at him with his father's eyes. Seeing Xana gave him the strength to banish the phantoms, but Xana then calls on the dark side itself, causing tentacles of pure dark side energy to raise out of Ambria's contaminated ground and attack Bane. Bane attempts to destroy them, but his lightsaber passes through them like smoke, and one touches his shoulder and disintegrates a chunk of his flesh, causing such pain that Bane almost goes into shock. Bane realizes that he can't affect the tentacles and must kill Xana. He then dodges them, and in an attempt to do so, he leaps to attack Xana, but Xana blocks him. But with her powers tied up in the struggle to control the tentacles, Bane is able to disarm her. But as he brings his lightsaber down to kill her, one of the tentacles wraps around his forearm, severing his limb and dropping Bane to a knee in agony. Marshalling all his remaining power, he grabs Xana and begins the ritual of essence transfer. His body obliterated in an instant as his mind invades Xana's body, looking out through her eyes and hearing through her ears. Xana fights back, both seeking to destroy the other, seemingly evenly matched before it ends. Cognos has watched the entire fight from the camp, and having felt Bane's essence leave his body, she knows it could have only gone to Xana. She watches Xana rise unsteadily onto her feet, unsure if it's Bane or Xana. Cognos hesitantly approaches and asks who it is, with Xana replying dismissively that Bane is gone. She accepts Cognos as her apprentice, and directs her to take Bane's lightsaber until she can construct her own. As Xana explains that one day Cognos must face her, just as she faced Bane, Cognos noticed that Xana is flexing her left hand repeatedly. Alright, so that's it, guys. Holy crap, that was a 48-minute long commentary. And we are 5 hours later of straight work and commentary, cutting and reading back. You guys can tell, dude. Oh my god, I suck at this because I can't speak. I can't read from like a prompt and just like keep on talking without messing up words or stuttering. Right now I'm doing fine. I'm not like, holy shit, dude. I just could not pronounce like construction. Like, oh my god, it was just bad. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry that my commentary kind of sucked, and if anyone made it this far, that's actually kind of hype. This was just a passion project. I don't know. I really like the Darth Bane book series, and I seriously would recommend you guys read it. It's only like $17 or like $20 for all 3 books on Amazon, so I would definitely read it. My next book I'm gonna get is Darth Raven, and the thing is I'm not even a Star Wars channel, so maybe if this thing does good, I'll do more Star Wars, but if not, I'm just going to go back to regular COD. And wow, a 50-minute video. Never seen that before, or put this much work into a public YouTube video, but I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.